Please work, please work. Okay, now are you ready for the magic? So I have my new repository, and now if I open the catalog, the entity is here. And now if I go to CI/CD, I can see my first run executed. So this is why the developer portal feels magical. If you're looking to start your Backstage journey and build your own developer portal from scratch, you've come to the right place. My name is Himanshu, and I'm a product manager at Harness, building internal developer portal based on Backstage. And previously, I was an engineer and DevRel at the Backstage core team at Spotify. I have been working on Backstage ever since it was open sourced back in March 2020. In this video, I'm going to cover how do you set up Backstage locally, how do you set up user authentication, how do you connect your Git system and import entities in your software catalog. I will talk about catalog, I will describe the concepts, how do you set up technical documentation, TechDocs, how do you set up API documentation, and how do you create software templates so that your developers can create new software in minutes. And the journey has not been smooth. I've made several mistakes in the video, which you're going to make as well. So I'm not going to remove that. I'm going to keep it in there so that you can enjoy while you learn how to set up Backstage. So here we go. Internal Developer Portal is based on Backstage. It's a product that companies can use to get started. But I have a history with Backstage. I joined Spotify in 2020 as an engineer, just because I wanted to work upon open source projects. And Backstage happened to me. Wonderful team at Spotify. I learned a lot from my fellow engineers. Built a lot of cool stuff in open source. And let me go over the agenda. So, video introduction, I already talked about why I'm creating this. My older videos are very old, and I want to do this live again. There's a lot of changes that happen in Backstage, new backend system and a bunch of other things. So want to cover that, and I'll also make mistakes while working on this live. I want to show the mistakes that people make and try to show you how to get around it. So that's my purpose. So this is done. Should we cover what is Backstage? It's an open source project created by Spotify, and today it's part of the CNCF organization. And CNCF is Cloud Native Computing Foundation, the home of Kubernetes and all, and a bunch of other cool projects. And Backstage is incubating there. And it has a lot of contributors. Here I am. It's a growing community. There's a Discord group, but ultimately what it does is provides a framework for you to build your developer portals. So Backstage is a project. You can set up your own developer portal internally for your own developers. And there are a few use cases of why you would want to do that. The whole idea is to improve developer efficiency, developer productivity, right? But it has two angles. One angle is you want to improve developer productivity. The other angle is you want to solve platform engineering problems, which means where do I go today and find all the applications that we have, and who are the owners, where are the dependencies, what's the version that is deployed, all of that information. So how do I standardize things? How do I create a sea of knowledge for my internal developers? So it has got few components. One is a catalog, and I can also show a demo of that. So this is a public demo called backstage.io. So Backstage is an open source project. The central aspect to this is a software catalog. There is a software template, a way for you to present your software templates. So in an organization, you have your go-to way of creating a new backend component, new backend service, or a go-to way of creating new website. So how do you expose that? All of it you can do. And you can have your technical documentation on Backstage. Everything is under search. A Kubernetes plugin for you to see if your deployments are on Kubernetes, and bunch of plugins for you to use. So that's Backstage. Let's dive into, so that is Backstage. I'm not gonna go into deep. This topic has been covered before. If you want to learn more about Backstage, then go to backstage.io. You'll find a lot of videos, especially this one is really, really popular. So check this out. But let's dive into setting up Backstage. So what I'm gonna do now is I have a WSL, right? So I'm gonna open my terminal. This is gonna open Ubuntu. Wonderful. So I've got nothing here. And I will install Backstage. So the way Backstage works is, imagine it's like React. It's not a package tool, it's a library. So you create your own application, which will include a backend, which will include a front end, and the application will use Backstage as a library. So some front end components from Backstage, some back end components, and that will be your website. So you're not supposed to go to Backstage and clone this. Don't do that if you're looking to create your own portal. What you do is you run the commands that Backstage gives you. So let's go to getting started. And just confirm that you have everything set up for you, right? So yeah, if you're on Windows, then you need like a Linux-like system. Or if you're on Mac, then everything is good. Just run this command so that you've got some basic tools set up. Ensure that you have curl and everything, but the most important thing is Node.js and NVM. So let me take a look at my terminal, see what version of Node I am on. I'm on 16, looks fine. Let's say if I have NVM, that's fine. So I'm gonna say use V18. I'm on V18. This is fine. So use the LTS version of Node. 18 is fine. I've got NVM. If you don't have NVM, definitely install that. And once you have NVM, you can do NVM install V18. And once you install it, you can do NVM use global V18. And then you'll start using Node version 18. Then you need Yarn, because Backstage uses Yarn as the package manager. I've got Yarn, comes with NVM, wonderful. I need Docker, so let's see I have Docker installed or not. Version. I have Docker installed. I'm gonna run that later. And I've got Git, that's good. So looks like I have everything. So let's create a Backstage app. The way to create it is you run the command called npx create app. It's very funny that they don't. There's, oh, here it is. Let's do it. So this is the command you need. npx add backstage / create app latest. So this is gonna create a new Backstage app for you and gonna ask a bunch of questions. So what is the name of your app? Well, my portal. Sounds good. Failed to create app. Why? Requires Node version 18. Yeah, I told you, right? Like I was doing this earlier. You need this particular version of 18. So I'm gonna do something like nvm install v18.12 and nvm use global v18.12. Nice. Run this again. I'm gonna call this my portal, and didn't clean up, so I'm gonna have to clean up my stuff. All right, better work this time. npx create backstage app. Let's call this my portal. Yarn not found. Which yarn? Oh, yarn is gone. Okay. Install yarn using nvm. So now I'm gonna use npm install my yarn. All right. Let's run this again. Yarn. Sorry, what was that? npx create backstage app. My portal. Oh, looks like it's working. Oh, it's done. All right, whatever. Let's do it. All right, so my portal is done. I can go inside and set up my Backstage app. So let's go inside, and we see that it has also made a git commit. That's good. That's good. One commit is good. Let me open this in VS Code. Amazing. Let me sign in using my GitHub. It's signed in, so why is it? Whatever. I've got a Backstage app. Let's understand a few things. So the Backstage app that we have is brand new. It has two folders. One is the front end, the other is the back end. So the front end is based on React, the back end is based on Node.js, uses Express.js as the API framework. Let me also update my VS Code, it's been long. So front end, back end, we can run this together, we can run this separately. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to split my screen. Oh, that just closed it. Oh, I'm used to macOS shortcuts. CD workspace, what was it? Backstage, live stream, my portal. Yes. And what's the command to alt click? Ah, nice. That's good. Can I move this around? No? Okay. What if I do alt click again? This is great. Great stuff. So here I'm gonna run the first let me run yarn install. I think it has run already. Okay. Now let me run yarn start here. So that's gonna run my front end. So if you just do yarn start, it's gonna run your front end at port 3000. And then I'm gonna run my backend. So I'm gonna run yarn start backend. So this is going to run my backend on a different port, 7007 or something. Yeah. Front end running, backend running, and then let me get a separate terminal for just the regular command. So everything is good, everything is running. Let's see how it looks. right? I have a Backstage app. I have a front end running. I have a back end running at port 7007, as you can see here, right? So front end, back end, and this is what this looks like. So the packages folder contains the front end. The packages folder contains the back end. There's more folders in here, like plugins, for example, which we'll need when we create our plugins. The whole thing is a monorepo. So if you look at the central, we call it yarn workspaces, and there should be a if you look at package.json, you can see some commands. So you can see, like, at the root level there are some commands. So when we did yarn start, it basically started the front end app. When we did start backend, it started the backend app. And then these are the individual yarn workspaces, which means each one of those are an npm package. So front end is an npm package, backend is an npm package. So that covers our Backstage setup. We covered prerequisite. We understood the folder structure. Now, Backstage does need a database. So it needs a Postgres database for a fully fledged setup. But I'm gonna come to that later. But first, let's try to understand authentication. So I can currently go and sign in using as a guest user. So that is something that you can do. So you can sign in using a guest user, but we're gonna need a valid user identity provider. So let's say you want to have your users sign in via your single sign-on provider, your GitHub login, your Google login, Okta, could be anything. So in our example, we're going to set up a very simple GitHub login, right? But you could do that in several other ways. So how do we do this? So let's understand the Backstage authentication setup. So you can see you have all of these sign-in providers that you can use to set up sign-in onto in Backstage. So I'm going to use GitHub here, right? And that will do it. So I'm finding the music a bit distracting. What's a good music? Is it? You're gonna put me to sleep. Rock music work. Not workout music. This sucks. What is brown noise? Yeah, whatever. I'm gonna pause this for a moment. So let's do sign in, right? Let's set up the sign provider. So you got GitHub that we're going to use, and what do we want to do here is that ultimately, let me log out. When I sign in, users should see an option to sign in via their GitHub. Why is that important? So that they can only sign in once they sign in, they will be able to give you their credentials, and their profile will be there, and there will be some sort of team that they're part of, and based on that you can decide the ownership of that. So that's going to be the whole concept of when you sign in, you decide the user identity that's gonna be assigned to that user. So right now it's only guest. We're gonna remove that, and when I sign via GitHub, we're gonna see our own credentials. So let's do that. So now, in order to set up a GitHub sign-in, we need a GitHub OAuth app. We need a GitHub OAuth app, not a GitHub app. That there are different things that you should consider. So GitHub app is a service account, while a GitHub OAuth app is a way for you to sign in to this. So let's start. Go to settings. I'll increase the font a bit. Go to settings, then go to your GitHub OAuth app. Here you go. I'm gonna create a new one. I'm gonna call it Backstage. Sorry, My Portal OAuth app, right? The homepage URL is going to be where this is coming from. So here it's coming from my localhost 3000. Ideally, you should have two OAuth app, one for your local development and one for your production development, and we'll talk about both later on. And that's it. This is my OAuth application. The other thing is the callback URL. So once I sign in via GitHub, where the authenticated information is going to send back to. So that will be my backend URL. So in our case, it's this particular thing that this is sent to. That's it. So I have a client ID here. Let me also generate a client secret. And this thing I'm going to keep in my app config. So right now, you see Backstage also gives you an app config.local.yaml. So GitHub app secret. Let me just put this here. GitHub app ID, client ID. All right. So if you look at it here, this is not going to be committed. It's part of your git ignore. Anything that ends with .local.yaml. So you can keep your local app credentials here and not commit it. So the production app will have a different config. The local will have a different config. I'll talk more about this later on. So we have these two secrets. That's good. And now we're going to set up our configuration. So what we will do here is, excuse me, we will go to the app.config.yaml. So this is our app.config.yaml. Is there an auth piece here? Yeah. This is empty. Let's add this to our what do we say? Our app.config.local.yaml. Let's copy this, put this here. So we have a guest provider right now. We're gonna remove that. The other provider we need is GitHub. And we're gonna say for development environment, we use this thing, and we'll say the environment itself is development. So you can switch environments just here, and you can have different credentials. So for GitHub development, I have my client ID. That is this thing. And I have my client secret, so I actually messed it up. The client ID is this. The secret is this. Okay, now this is only for github.com. If you're working on your custom GitHub enterprise, so this is the place where you should be writing that. So let's say you're working on ghe.mycompany.net, and this is that thing will go. Of course, you would have created your OAuth app on the GitHub enterprise. So let's remove that. Finally, the other piece that it's important, and it's a very Backstage concept, is the sign-in resolver. What that means is once GitHub sends us some data, so once we get a data like, hey, this is the user that is signing in, which means this is their GitHub username, this is their email address, this is the profile picture, like all of this data GitHub app will send us. What do we do with that app, right? So that is called a resolver, which means we'll take that data and create a Backstage user identity, the identity that the user will contain. Now, there are some predefined resolvers that comes with Backstage. So one is username matching user entity name. This is the default. Now, this is very dangerous, I would say. So what this says is matches the username from the auth provider. So in this case, it's going to be OrkoHunter coming from my GitHub. And if matches that with the user entity in catalog. Now our catalog does not have a user entity today. So our catalog is empty. So this just to show you that there's a guest, but that's it. I'll talk about what is catalog, what is the entities and all of that. So this is not going to work for us. What can work is matches the email address from the auth provider with the user entity. No, we don't want to do it with the user entity. Matches the local part of the email address from them. This is not good. We need a resolver right now which can assign a user without having to have the user in the catalog. So that is where we need to create a custom resolver. Yeah. By the way, there is going to be a backend installation that we'll have to do. We'll come to that later. So how do we create a backend resolver, right? This is the way. So let me show you what the code looks like for these resolvers. But let me also show you what's happening right now. So I've added GitHub as a sign-in provider, right? Let's reload our app and see how this looks. It's not there because we made a change to the app config, and it's showing an error. Config file, config source, failed to read config file, expected object at config root. Oh, these things are not valid YAML. All right, so now let's go to our terminal. Let's start the app again. But it's not showing my GitHub here, and there is a reason for that. So if you go to packages, app, source, and your app.tsx, there is something called a sign-in page. The sign-in page is your page that you're seeing here. The sign-in page requires a provider to be added. So you say your provider here. GitHub is also one provider that you can add. If you want to see what all things are possible, then please take a look. Well, it's saying GitHub is not a provider here. Let's take a look at the docs. Oh, okay, it requires an object, not necessarily that way. Okay, so we got this providers array. The other thing we need here is a object. Let's create that. The object will have an ID. Let's copy this thing. So we copied that thing. Now this GitHub auth API ref needs to be imported. So we can import that from the core plugin API in our app. So that is good. It solves the issues, and we should be good here. I need Prettier to be installed so that it formats it automatically. All right, so it's showing up now. But remember, it's not going to work today because I have the it's created a new window, because my resolver requires the user to be present in the catalog. It's not there. So I'm gonna unknown auth provider GitHub. Yeah, so this is where also need to install the backend backend package of the GitHub auth provider. So this is the command you need to run. So close your backend, paste this. So it's yarn inside the packages backend folder. We are adding a new module called Backstage, plugin auth backend module, GitHub provider. So this is particularly for the GitHub provider. And then in your packages backend source.tx, you need to add this line. Backend source index.ts, add this line at the bottom. Now this is what's known as Backstage new backend system. So if you're running this on older Backstage, especially before 1.28, your backend will look different, and this tutorial does not apply to that. So that's why I've started afresh, and you should also start with a new Backstage app creation. But if you have created this with the latest version, you'll get this. All right, so I've added this to my backend. Let's restart the backend. All right, backend is running. Let's start. Let's reload our page. All right, so now if we try to sign in, it should show our GitHub OAuth app. So this screen, if you see, it's your GitHub OAuth app screen. This is going to be similar if you set up your sign in via your Okta, Google, and whatnot. So now if I hit continue, it's going to fail because GitHub will authenticate me. Backstage will try to see if that user exists in the catalog, and it's going to say, no, that does not exist. So you see, unable to resolve user identity. Please verify that your catalog contains the expected user entry should match your configured sign resolver. That's not good. So we need to create a resolver, a sign-in resolver, which does not expect the user to be in the catalog. Now in future, if you set up your catalog in a way where you sync users from your SSO provider to the catalog, and that's good. You can switch back to this resolver. But now we'll have to create a new one. So let's do that. So this is where we need to go to the custom sign-in resolver page, which is here. So no, sorry, not here. Here, in auth identity, you need to go to building custom resolver. So let's go to our index.ts and let's create this line in there. So let me call this authentication stuff. All right, I've got my custom auth resolver. This ID must be exactly auth because that's the plugin it targets. Okay. This ID must be unique, but can be anything. Custom auth provider. That's fine. Register. It needs the auth provider thingy. Register. This ID must match the actual provider config addressing the auth provider. GitHub means that it must be GitHub. So yeah, I mean, if you are configuring this for your, like if you have your Google here, Okta here, and you're trying to build a resolver for those, then you go there. You write that here. Factory, create auth provider factory. This is our logic. This is where our logic will go. We also need a few imports. So let's import that. Wonderful. What are the errors? Oh, do we have that? Oh, I actually added the imports there. Move it from here and move it to the top. Cool. So now we have this. Now the sign-in resolver is where our logic will go. So they don't have a sample here on what we need to do with the info, the context, and what do we need to return. So let's take a look at an example. So this is an example. Let me copy this entire thing. And let me format this correctly so that this goes in here. All right. So what we're doing is we assume that the information will give us the email address, and we need an email address. So that's a requirement you can set. If you don't have an email address, then you say the user content has no email address. Now, this is where you can also do things like email.split, right? You can say at, right? And then you can say the second portion. Well, actually, this is documented here. So this is an email validator. You can add your own custom logic here. And you can say the email must contain at like mycompany.net or something like that, and you can throw an error. So I'm going to disable this. And here it's taking the first part of the email and taking this as a name. Now again, the context sign in with catalog user is again wrong. So this is the expectation that the user lives in the catalog. So that's not what we need. What we need is ctx dot issue token is what we need to call. And let's see if there's an example for that. There we go. So let's copy this. Okay. I don't know why that port thing is coming up all the time. So now that we have this, don't show again. Yes. There are two things that you need to be aware about here. One is these are JOT concepts, JWT. So we are creating a JSON web token here. That will be the Backstage identity. And we are saying this is the subject. So this thing should be the unique identifier. So here you can say, like here I'll say ID, or not email ID, but I'll say like user ID, right? Now this, so look at this, like I'm splitting, let's say my email address is himanshu@orkohunter.net. I'm taking Himanshu as the user ID. You can take the entire email as a user ID, that is also fine. So I'm removing that. I'm saying subject is my user ID. And this is the interesting thing. I will not dive too much into this, but here you can add different identities of the user. So what you can do here is you can say something like GitHub, and you can say GitHub dot user ID, and this is where you can like fetch that information from the info. Let's log this. Let's say console.log info. Let's see what's inside, right? So that we have an understanding of what do we get from GitHub. And I'm gonna put this so that it's easy to find. Let's open our terminal. This has restarted, and let's try to sign in again. So if I sign via GitHub, so let me try by removing that config. Try again. Starting auth. Configuring done. Okay. Subclaim provided by author is not validated. See, now it's working. Now it's working, and I can see my token and everything. All right, so this needs to be updated actually. Let's make a PR, and I can fix this entity ref thing. So let's copy this entity ref creator. There you go. So entity ref is just a format of how you write Backstage entities. It's like basically three things: the kind of the entity, the namespace, which is often default, and the name, which is the ID. Let's go to the index.ts. So this, we can make it something like this. I need prettier badly. User entity, kind user, name is basically my user ID, and namespace is default. That's my user entity. I'll make it my subject, and I'll make it a claim. I'll talk about that later. Let me import this. The command dot doesn't work. Control dot fi entity ref from Backstage catalog model. Okay. Jesus. Function not implemented as. Okay, it's working. So now if you see, I've got my profile and everything, and my sign-in is complete. And this is using the custom sign-in resolver, where I can decide what will happen when the user is signing in. I can add my guardrails, I can add my conditions, and then I can issue the JWT token with the custom way in which it should be done. So like I can add different identities of the user across different platforms, and that can be retrieved in my plugins. So it's very powerful. Check out this page called Identity Resolver if you want to try different stuff. But let me just summarize. How did we add an identity provider? So the very first step we did was we went ahead and saw whether there is an existing identity provider that we want to implement with. So we found GitHub. You could really work with Google, Okta, anything else as well. Like you can sign by Azure, GitLab, and a bunch of other things. So and then we added, then we created a GitHub auth application. We added some details like the homepage URL, backend URL. Now, if you're doing this for production, then the homepage URL will be where your app is actually deployed, not the local host one, and similarly where the backend URL lives. Most likely it's going to be the same. So it's going to be one URL here, and on the same URL you'll add the /API and the rest of this. So this is only true for GitHub. For different auth providers, this is going to be different, and you can find the docs inside. Then we added the secrets here, credentials here, and then we wanted to create our own resolver. So we have to remove this piece. Don't leave this hanging. I spent about 1.5 hours on this, so don't leave this hanging. Remove this, and then go to this page called Custom Sign-in Resolver. It's somewhere here. Custom Sign Resolver, and then just copy paste this in your backend stuff, and this is where you need to write the logic. I've written something similar here. You can see what I have written. I'll remove the logs, but you can actually see what's coming in the info to decide how to make this work. I've got like the profile here, which I'm not using actually, so I can actually remove this. Well, actually, I'm using the email from the profile, so that's important. I'm converting this user ID from the first part of the email address to the user entity using this method from Backstage, and I'm creating a JWT token. Sounds good. Now I have my, there's a few other things, not yet. So the backend stuff, remove the default provider if you had added, if you're working on a custom sign-in resolver, if you're adding that. And then the front end also needs to be changed. So go to your packages app, sourced app.tsx. And then here you need to write the custom auth provider that you have added here. Well, this thing. Let me confirm if this also works if I just say GitHub auth provider, right? But the API ref is what matters. This is GitHub auth provider, GitHub auth API ref, and then this is where we need to remove the guest once we have the GitHub working well. Let's see if this still works. This still works. So the ID there doesn't matter. Let's remove this guest, but I'm pretty sure, yes, now it's good. You sign in, and then this will work, and you can see that your identity is here. So that completes our authentication setup. Let's go to here and mark this as done. I talked about local config versus production config. One thing which I want to share is that when you start your Backstage, you can provide configs to load. So by default, it's gonna load all the app configs that you have in your root. So first it's going to load appconfig.yaml, then it's going to load the production one, and then it's gonna override that with the local one. So if I have auth set up here, let me also remove guest from here. If I have auth set up here, and if I have some auth set up here, the local one will override the common one. The local one is not committed on Git, so it lives in your local setup, local environment. And the production one is supposed to be the prod one. So let's say locally you want to deal with SQLite database, right? Which is memory based, but on production you want to set up the Postgres database. So that's why these configs exist. You can also take a look at Backstage. Configs, where is configs? Configuration. So static configuration, this is where you can see this path. So what you can do is something like when you start Backstage, you can do config, then you can do appconfig1.yaml, then you can do appconfig2.yaml. You get the idea. If not, then your default production local will be used. So that completes our auth. Let's move on to understand how the catalog works. So let's set up something that's called a Git integration. So auth and Git integration are two different things. I'll explain that now. So catalog is there. Now I can sign in via GitHub, right? But imagine this is like I could have signed in via Google as well. So this has no connection to my GitHub as a Git provider, as a source code provider. So it will not be able to read files from my Git. And that is what's known as a integration in Backstage, a Git integration if you want to. So setting up a Git integration is different than setting up a OAuth, a sign-in integration. It's very different. And that's where, if you remember earlier, we use GitHub OAuth for our sign-in integration, but we use GitHub app or a GitHub personal access token for our Git integration. So this is where you can see we need to add the integrations piece, and this will work. So let's go ahead and create a GitHub personal access token and use that here. In production setup, you should be using GitHub app instead of this. Now you can do this with all the Git providers. You can do this with GitHub, GitLab, Harness as a code provider, Carrot, Azure repos, Bitbucket, a bunch of things are supported. Where do we go? Developer settings, personal access token, classic, generate token. I can create repo scope, that's good. Quick token, live stream. I'll mark it to expire as tomorrow. Yes. And it cannot read my local stuff. It's just public token. Copy this. Go to your appconfig.local again. And then add this integrations config. And then do GitHub. I'm gonna keep this here. And this is what you need to add. So host github.com token is my token. Okay. Now for one type of integration, you can add number of hosts. So the other thing you can do here is like, okay, this is for my github.com, but for my ghe.mycompany.net, the token is something else, or the auth provider is something else. So that is also something you can do. You can also connect to both GitHub and GitLab and Bitbucket and Harness at the same time. So that is also possible. So now we have added a GitHub integration. What does this mean? Again, this means that my Backstage app can read YAML files or call GitHub APIs using this token. Okay, so if I reload this, and if you go to create and if you go to register, this is the piece where you can add a GitHub YAML. Let's use a public YAML that I have. I have a component. It should be able to read that. You see, the component is here. In our catalog, we can see a Python library. This is something that I just ingested from this. So that completes our Git integration. So let's mark that as done. Now, this is done. Database. Let's cover that quickly, but it's well documented in here using creating Backstage. So database. So you need to set up Postgres for a production instance. So either you set up locally or you get it from your cloud provider, and then just switch this backend.database config to your Postgres credentials. That's it. Nothing else needs to be done. You just add that DB credentials and you're golden. So DB setup is done. Let's understand what we have just added, right? What is a catalog? What was that YAML that I just created? So the best page to understand this is Backstage YAML. Just search for Backstage YAML. You will get to this page. And this is the holy grail. This is the page that you'll be visiting again and again until you understand the Backstage catalog concept. But before we dive into this, let's get a bit more graphical. So Backstage holds. This is what your software ecosystem looks like. Like if you're an engineer, if you work in a company, you have 100 developers, 1,000 developers, you have a lot of services. You have a lot of software components. This could be services. It could be your library that you're publishing internally. Let's say a web library internally everyone can use. A backend toolkit everyone can use. Anything, right? Internal website, right? It's also a software component. So what I'm looking at here right now is this piece, the software component piece. This is what's known as a kind in Backstage world. So if you go to here, you see kind component, and that's written here. The kind is the identifier for what is the entity kind. So that needs to be component for every software component, like service and stuff. The other two possible kinds in Backstage by default are API and resources. So we'll get to that later, but very quickly, APIs hold the API types, and these are used to showcase API docs, the endpoints, what do they do, etc. And resource is used to hold physical things like databases, your caching instances, your cloud resources, and all of that. Okay, mostly you'll be using component, but a component has several types of entities, and that is where the spec.type field comes into play. So if this is a regular microservice, just say type microservice, right? Now the component needs to be component. By the way, it's case insensitive, so you can say capital component, small component, doesn't matter. The type is arbitrary. You can say type Himanshu, also fine. You can say type LLM model, also fine. So the type is the subtype of this particular entity kind. All right, you got these. That's the basic. I'll get into system domain later on, but we will be using this. The third thing which matters is the name. Name is the unique ID. So here I have a component of type service, and the name is a Python library, and that is something I've registered. So as you can see here, And then I can say, well, the description is something else, and it has a few tags, it has a few links, and that's all visible. Over here, you can see the links being visible. It has some owners, so that's by spec.owner is the owner. This needs to be a group inside the catalog. If you don't have it, then you can add it. And then you can see all the different kinds as well. So group is also a kind. So you've got a group which is supposed to be a user group. So you can just copy this, create a YAML, register it, you've got a user group. Shall we do that? So let's do that. Let's create a group. So I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it group.yaml. You can name this anything. Ideally, it should be catalog info YAML, but you can name this anything. This is my group. I'm going to call it whatever this was, IDP admins. Type, you can again, group also have types. All of that is fine. This is where you need to understand these two fields. So the members is the user that are part of this group. The user also is a kind in catalog. So you can also register users, have the nice profile for users in Backstage if you're looking to use your developer portal in that regards. But you have your children as subgroups of a group. So let's say you have this organization, it has a few departments, and then it has few teams, then it has employees. So you can have several like hierarchy of groups under groups under groups, and then finally you get to a user kind. So I'm going to create this. Doesn't matter if those entities exist or not. I will just get an error. So I'm going to copy my group.yaml, copy, go here, create, register, analyze. This is not allowed. Entity group is not allowed. Whenever you see not allowed, what you need to do is go to your appconfig.yaml. Why am I creating new VS Code all the time? Go to your appconfig.yaml and look at the catalog piece. So you see this? This means that we are saying you can only register these kinds using the direct register thing. But here you need to add group and user as well. This is up to you. You can write something called a custom entity provider, which we'll talk about later on. Or you could just allow this and register groups via YAML. Doesn't matter. It's pretty safe if you know how to control who can register components. So add group, add user, that's fine. Especially if your sign-in provider does not depend on the user being in the catalog, you can add it. So I'm going to support it. I think I'll need a Backstage restart. Well, appconfig is not loading. Appconfig, sorry. It must have that key somewhere. Oh, it's done. That's fine. Let's restart our backend. All right, let's go. Let's try inputting this group. Done. Perfect. Now you see the group exists also as an entity, and you can see it has a nice UI as well. So now if you go to the, I've lost my Python app now because I don't have a PostgreSDB. It's running in system. So every time I reload my backend, I'm going to lose all my entities. So let's go ahead and register that Python YAML that we had. Import. Okay, let's view the component. And now you see the owner is there. It's also a group because I had linked the spec.owner is the same as the group ID. Okay, So now I have an ownership defined. So now you have a page for a team, and you can see, well, you can see what all things they own, and you can click on it and get there. So that is some aspect of catalog that you need to understand, is that you can register entities. There are different kinds of entities that you can register, and it's pretty flexible. What you can register, like the metadata field here is pretty flexible. You can add metadata.something, and that's also fine. Custom properties. But the basic things are, you can have an owner. It is part of a system. System is more like a grouping of applications. So if you go back to this diagram again, a system is a superset or like a parent of a component. So you can have, let's say, a system of like a user system, and that includes few user-related services, few APIs, and some resources that is making that system come alive. System is also equivalent to a department in several places. And domain is, well, like a collection of systems. So domain will be like an organization. If you zoom in, so domain could be an organization. You can have multiple domains. So domains have their own internal dependencies. You can have domain, then you can have system, and then you can have a component. Another way to understand this is that in SaaS providers like Harness, you have orgs. So you have org, then you can have a project, and then you can have the entity. The leaf level entity is the component. All right. So with that, we have understood how catalog works. One extra thing I would like to tell you, that whenever you say, hey, register this URL matters. So if you are registering from GitLab or somewhere else, what Backstage does is that it looks this URL, checks for it in your integrations setup. But if you have that host, then it will try to use the auth for that. If you don't have it, then it will say it's not set up. Like if I do gitlab.com, it's gonna fail. It will say that there's no, I don't know how to read GitLab URLs. So setting up integrations is important if you want to register the YAMLs. Right? You can see all the integrations available. Perfect. That's good. Now we're gonna register a lot of stuff. So one thing which I'm gonna tell you now is how do you customize your sidebar so that this thing is always available. Catalog import is available as a sidebar item. So let's go ahead, open our VS Code, and we'll talk about how to customize a sidebar. Customize sidebar. So we talked about the basics, how to register, system model. We haven't talked about processors yet. We'll get there. So let's do a quick win and change our sidebar. So go to packages, app, source, components, root.tsx, and this is your sidebar. That's it. This is the code. So what you need to do is you need to add one more item here, and this needs to go to catalog import. You see here, it's called catalog import. So that's what you need to add. And the icon here is a material UI icon. So you can say material UI icon. And you can search for, let's say, register, right? Maybe let's use this one, app registration icon. Okay, we need to import this from material UI icons. So we can import this from here. Oh, it's actually material UI. So you're gonna encounter this often. When you say material UI and then you see material UI, like MUI, these are different versions. So MU is version 6. Go to version 5. That's where you'll find the older icons. Where are my icons? Yes, so now I search for register. App register. I want to import from material UI. Why is this still giving me? Okay, it needs to be v4. That's too old. App registration. Register. What about new? I've got this thing. Let's add this. Add circle icon, right? And then I can just use that icon. So you can import icons from anywhere. That doesn't matter. Now I have changed my sidebar, and oh well, it still says create. It needs to be register. We're already using the plus icon, so maybe it needs to be. Maybe let's use create icon instead of add circle icon. Create icon, and I can say create icon. Let's say create icon here, and then switch this to this, right? Different icons. So I've got create, which is like a pencil, so we are creating something. We'll get to that later. And then you've got register, so you can directly register from the sidebar. Cool. So we learned how to customize our sidebar. Now I've added an entity. I've added a service, right? And then you see that these are different tabs in here, which may not be functional because these are individual plugins. However, this docs thing is interesting. We'll cover that later. This is about building the technical documentation and showing it here. But let's get this APIs set up, and let's have one of our APIs in here. So you see this basic stuff in here. That's fine, but let's get a Swagger API, like something with some endpoints defined. So just simply search for like kind API in Backstage. So you'll get to this, and it has some hard-coded stuff, but for now we're gonna copy this. We're gonna put it in a Git repository where we have a setup, and we'll say create a file. Oops. Create new file. API.yaml. Let's call it OpenAPI.yaml. Put it here. We're calling it artist API. Commit. Search for OpenAPI. Copy the URL. So whenever you need to register a YAML, always copy this URL, whatever you see in the browser when you're viewing that file, and that's what you need to register. Import. Now I have the API entity as well. So you can see this here, and when you go to like the definition tab, that's where you can see the API definition. Now this YAML is custom. Like you're not gonna hard code the OpenAPI definition in here. So what you will do, like when you set this up, is you're gonna point this to actual OpenAPI definition. So let's see if that is documented here. No, it's not. Unfortunately, it's not documented. So that is called the API docs plugin. So if I search for Backstage API docs plugin, that's where I'll find some documentation around it. I've already installed that. This is not helpful. How do I use it? No, I'm looking at the wrong thing. So this is like what we are trying to do is we are trying to read the Swagger JSON from a file. So Backstage read from file. Let's see, we get the look. It's called local file substitution. Something like this YAML, and this was implemented. It's a very old PR that we're looking at. So let's see. We'll find a syntax here. Yeah. Okay. So we can do this. We can say, well, here's our file, and it can be local. It can be a public URL. So let me do that. We can do. Let's find a Swagger JSON. Swagger API JSON. Example. This is good. Let's change our API to point to this. So in definition, what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, the indentation is 2, not 4. We're going to say $file, and we'll paste the link to that file. Now I'm going to try this first, then I'm going to try $JSON and $YAML. I'm going to start with $file. Commit change. Now here's something we'll learn. Now we have changed the YAML in here. Let's see how do we update the catalog. So we go here, and another important piece. You see these 3 dots? You can actually inspect the entity. You can see what is the YAML that I'm getting, right? Okay, well, I'm looking at the wrong one. I need to look at the API one, right? So you can filter by kind as well. You can say artist API. This is what we're looking at. Inspect raw YAML. It's still the old thing that we had, right? It's not the file thing. So you need to just hit refresh, and then this should trigger a refresh. By default, catalog refresh is every like 30 minutes, but you can just hit refresh, and if you reload, this is gonna come with the newer one. Now it's showing you an error, which means that our newer stuff did not work. That's okay. And by this edit button, you can come in here. Now let's try JSON. But if you click on these 3 dots, you can actually see that this was updated, and we got some processing error, so it did not update the entity actually. Let's hit refresh again, then reload the page. This is good. So placeholder JSON could not read the location because it's saying not allowed error, and that is fine because Backstage does not load files like this if you do not explicitly allow it. So what you need to do is you have to go to the backend.reading.allow in your app config. Backend.reading. It doesn't have it, so just add it yourself. Reading, I can't spell this, allow, and this needs to be a list of all the hosts that you want to allow this from. So this needs to be something like this. Let's confirm. Backstage reading allow. Right, so you see here, okay, backend reading allow host, okay, to do this. Backstage docs are sometimes insane. Like you have to really know what is correct, what is old to really do that. Okay, so I've allowed this. I should also allow like github.com, but I think it's allowed by default. So I've allowed a few URLs. I think this should be fine. Let's hit refresh. Because the backend must have loaded, I've changed the app config. It's not loaded, so let's restart our Backstage backend. Okay, let's see. Where did that? Oh, I lost my entities. Okay, let's register this again. No worries. But why did I lose it? Because I have not set up the database to Postgres. Now I'm getting that error. Spec definition must be type string. So that JSON is not working. Okay. Now the last thing we're gonna try is something that's called text. I think that's gonna work. $text. Yep, $text works. So it doesn't need to be JSON, it doesn't need to be a file, it just needs to be a text. Okay, let's see. Copy, paste, analyze, and it's done. So now if you see the component, so this beautiful Swagger docs in here, it's coming from a Swagger JSON. So how do you set up API docs? Well, there must be something that you're using, which is extracting all of your OpenAPI definitions and converting into a JSON format like this. This is the standard OpenAPI format. Once you have this, you can register it inside Backstage with this syntax. Sounds good. You need to use text here. That's very important. So let's check having APIs as done. Okay, now we need to set up our TechDocs. Now the TechDocs is different than the API docs. TechDocs is, let's add a component which has TechDocs, which is the catalog info YAML here. Oh, we got this. Register, import, we got our Python library done. So this is my Python library. Now you see the docs tab here. This is TechDocs. All it does is it takes the markdown files in that repository, runs something called mkdocs, and then shows you that. So if you see the entity definition, this annotation needs to be added. You need to say metadata.annotations techdocsref is pointing to dir dot. Dir dot means there is a docs folder. Wherever the catalog info YAML lives, there is a docs folder, and this is what you need to build. This is my mkdocs website. Okay. This is in restructured text. I am not sure that's gonna work. Let me try. Let me try renaming that. So this needs to be like mkdocs compatible. Mkdocs is the tool that we use. This is the generator. So the simplest format for this is you need a docs folder. Let me rename this to something called, how do I rename a folder in GitHub? Here? No. If I want to rename this, well, I can try to let me register this newly. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a new folder. I'm gonna call it service with docs. Okay, and then I'm gonna call catalog info YAML here. Okay, and I'm going to copy an entity. Again, you know where to go. Backstage YAML. Copy the component. Copy this, paste it here. I'm gonna say this is a service with docs. Okay, it's a service. Everything else doesn't matter. You can keep it, leave it, doesn't matter. What matters is you need to add the TechDocs annotation. Backstage.io/TechDocs dir dot. Hit commit, done. Now you need to add a file called docs index.md. I'm gonna say hello world in here. So you see the structure. I have a catalog info YAML and I have a docs folder, and this is enabled with TechDocs. So let me copy this, register, analyze, import, and the entity is here. This is missing because my annotation is wrong. It's TechDocs ref. Oh, you see the mistake? Do you see it? Do you see the difference? It needs to be in the annotations. Now go ahead and refresh it. Now reload, go to docs, and this will try to build, but I am thinking it should fail because TechDocs, oh well, it worked. Wonderful. It should fail in your environment, and the reason is you need to set up TechDocs, and in order to do that, let's understand how to set up TechDocs. So go to your appconfig.yaml. Okay, search for TechDocs. Now the builder means Backstage is going to build your docs. Keep it local, don't worry about external, you're never gonna use it. Keep TechDocs builder to local, which means Backstage should update docs, should create docs. Generator means whether you are running Docker to generate docs or this will be done locally. Docker is fine if you're running it locally. Docker will give you a TechDocs Docker image, which will generate it. Ensure that you have Docker running, right? So you'll see that it's running for me. And yeah, it's running for me. It's gonna use that. And publisher is the third concept, which means where will the docs stored? The index.html, the images in the doc side, all of that, where will be it stored? Local means it will be stored in the same file system. Ideally, you should be using a bucket like Google GCS AWS S3 to read it. Now, there is this configurations page that you can take a look at. You know who wrote this? It was me, because there's too many configs, so I wanted this to be there. So this is the image that is used, and here's some of the like additional things that you can use. Like if you have to set up Google GCS, then you can say the bucket storage, and then you can like set up the credentials. Everything is documented. You know, if you want to set up your Google GCS, then you go to using cloud storage, and then you choose how to configure this. There's few authentication mechanisms of configuring TechDocs there. But when you deploy this, when you deploy your Backstage, you will be deploying this in your Docker image. So that is where you will not be able to run in Docker, because that will create Docker inside Docker situation. So you need to switch this to local. But when you switch this to local, you will have to ensure that your mkdocs and everything is installed locally. So you need to go here, read this docs, and these are all the things that you need to install locally. So you need to install Python, pip, virtual environment, and ultimately you need to install mkdocs, TechDocs core as well. Once you have this installed locally, then it's good. So do that change when you deploy this, change this to local, and ensure your image has Python and mkdocs core plugin installed. Sounds good. So that will ensure that your docs is working. Now here, my TechDocs is working. If you have components with this, with docs enabled, you will find them here. So you'll say this. The Python library also has some docs, I believe, but it's restructured text. It's not gonna work. This works. Cool. So we understood how docs work. Let's mark that as done. Recap. Annotation is there. The docs is in the same folder. Let's understand search a bit. So everything that you have, including that hello world thing, is indexed in search. So using search, you can search your entire catalog, all the entity types, and the documentation inside. So you go to your let me tell you, like, there's nothing you need to set up. Like by default, it uses your database, but you can change how the indexes are stored. So you come to here. There are 3 search engines. I think the Lunar is the default, but you can switch this to Elasticsearch or OpenSearch from AWS. You install the search backend, that is all fine. You can change the UI as well of how the search component loads. This is an interesting piece. So you can add your own custom data in that search index, and that is done by something called a search collator. And this is an example for that. So it's adding a bunch of other collators, running it every minute. Let's say you want users to be able to search, I don't know, different things from here, like your internal knowledge history, your internal CMDB or something. Then you can add a search collator, and you can write some code to do that. It's not that straightforward, but if you're really into search, you can add it. And then you can also change the search engine. You can say, well, I don't want to use the local DB. I want to use the Postgres. I want to use Elasticsearch, and that's all you can change. Elasticsearch is the most powerful, but it's not going to affect your search quality that much. Postgres is also fine. The reason why this is community here is because the maintainers did not create it. That's it. Doesn't mean that it's not supported. So we understood search. Now we will install a plugin. That's going to be interesting. So I'm going to take a short break to clear my mouth, and I'll see you in a few minutes. Cool. All right. So the break is over. We covered a bunch of aspects. Now, the one thing which I want to cover is how do you install a plugin, right? But what is a Backstage plugin? So if you go to backstage.io/plugins, you will find plenty of plugins in here. And it's about 200 plus. But plugins are essentially mostly UI plugins that you can use to change this view. So plugins you can use to like add new tabs here, add new cards here, pretty much that. So let's install a very simple plugin called like the GitHub Actions plugin, so that you can view the CI/CD in there. So let's go to GitHub Actions. Let's open that. So every plugin has two parts, the front end and the back end. Now, not every plugin needs to have a backend. So if you do not see the backend in the name of the plugin, it means it doesn't have backend. So go here. This repository has a lot of plugins, Backstage/community plugins. So you can see plugins slash you can see plugins slash GitHub Actions, but you can see all the other plugins. Now, some plugins like, let's say, Jenkins will have backend plugins as well. So you see this and you see /backend. So backend plugins mean you have to install it in two places. So always check whether a plugin has a front end and a backend, right? GitHub Actions does not have a backend, which means it's a purely UI plugin. So what does this need? The best place to read plugin docs is the README of the plugin. That's supposed to be updated all the time. If there's any change, they change the README of the plugin. So come here, find the README, go through this anytime you're installing plugin. So this is saying you need a GitHub OAuth app for this plugin to work, and that is why it does not have a backend, because it authenticates the user and shows using the user information. Then it's saying you need this annotation added in your entity so that the GitHub Actions plugin works. Now, most plugins require an annotation. That is one thing that's going to be extremely challenging in adoption, but users will have to update their YAML. Every user, every developer will have to do that for their plugins to work. So that's just something that I find very difficult. So this is done for us. This we can add. How do you install a plugin? There's going to be a command. Just purely copy that. Go ahead and just run it. So here I can run this. This is adding to the front end. So we're gonna restart our front end. I want to run some music. Okay, so my command is running. Okay, I need to restart my front end here. Okay, the action plugin installed. Now my project, this is not there, so there's no the CI/CD tab. First of all, this needs to be configured, like what plugin to render, the UI part of it. So that is step number 2 of a plugin configuration, is what do we render here, right? So let's go to our code base and go to entity page.tsx. Where is it? app.tsx. No. So, okay. So go to packages, app, source, components, catalog, and that's where you'll find the entity page.tsx. So this page, this is the one page which controls what gets rendered for different components. So here you can say if this is a component, then we'll render the component page, which is here. Now for the component, you can also have sub pages based on the type. So you can say if this is service, website, if not, render this default one. So go to your service entity page, and this is where you see the thing. So CI/CD content is what we need to update. What is the CI/CD content? Here you don't have anything. It's just saying basically you don't have anything. Now let's uncomment this. So here it's showing you the GitHub Actions example, but if you look at the plugin docs, it will tell you what to install. So here it's telling you, first of all, you install this component, then you import this component. Okay, my components are imported, and it's just telling you to add as a tab, which is already added. You can see it's added here to the CI/CD content /CI/CD. So you don't need to follow this, just need to add the component. So if you come here, you see it's checking whether the GitHub Actions is available or not. What does this mean? It means it checks for the project slug annotation that's added. So let's see what it looks right now. It's gonna say it's not available because our entity does not have that annotation, github.com/project slug. So we will need to add that. Let's go edit. So we add github.com/project slug. And this is OrkoHunter /IDP ingestion example. But depends if we have any action runs here or not. Looks like I don't. So if I had GitHub Actions run here, I would have used it. I'm going to use some other repository where I have GitHub Actions. So I have this other project called the page speaks. I'm going to configure that here. Hit refresh, reload, go to CI/CD, and now it's working. Now it's asking me to sign in via GitHub. It's going to use the same GitHub OAuth app that I've configured for sign in. And based on whether I have access to that repository, it's going to use it. Now it's saying the component has GitHub action, but no data was found. Have you created any workflows? Click on the button to. So let's take a look at that repository. Oh, okay. It's actually not OrkoHunter. It's like I moved it to an org. Yes, so there we go. Yeah, so this is the repository slug. Slug means org/repository. Okay, I've got this. Let's hit refresh. Then we need to reload the entity. Come back here. Got the plugin working. This is GitHub Actions plugin showing us the recent executions of our repository. So that is one step of installing a plugin. Now, mostly you have to take care of the annotation. You have to take care of the config that it needs, the authentication that it needs. So let's take a look at some other plugins here, right? Dynatrace, for example. So this is how this plugin looks. So most of the steps include like installation, authentication, so generating like an API key for that. And then you need to add this proxy endpoint. If it's a front-end plugin, if it needs to talk to Dynatrace API, it needs access to the API token. Now, the API token cannot be exposed to the front end directly. That's why this proxy backend helps us connect to that API via a backend proxy. And then it could need more configuration, like, hey, is the base URL, what is the base URL for my Dynatrace instance? It needs an annotation just like the other one. Some plugins can have one or more annotations. Some plugins can also have one or more entity cards. So they could either be a card that they're exposing on overview page, or a tab they're exporting, or a full page plugin. A very good example for that is PagerDuty. So if you see here, I love this plugin. This very yeah, lots of features in there. So all right, this is a card, but they also have a tab view, which they have not added here for some reason. That's fine. That's okay. There we are. Yeah. So you see here. So this is a card. This is another small card that they export, and this is a full page plugin from PagerDuty. So you can choose one or the other. You can choose all of it. Doesn't matter. So now we have installed a plugin. Let's try to install a backend plugin as well, so that you get a flavor. With the new backend system, it should be easier to install backend plugins. So one of the plugins which has a backend is very few plugins have backend, first of all. So let's take a look at Jenkins, maybe. Yes, so Jenkins backend. In the new backend system, you need to install a package, and all you need to do is just add this line in your backend index.tsx. That's it. This thing is not needed. This was the old backend system. So now this needs a new config and all of that. So installing backend plugin should be extremely simple. It should be just this. Cool. And most configurations happen using the config. All right. So we've learned about installing plugins. How do I create a plugin in today's world? That's going to be a big topic. But let's dive into it. So how do I create a plugin? Well, the first thing you need to search is Backstage, how to create plugin. And you will find my video on this. You can take a look at this, but I always recommend checking the recent docs first, so that you're using the latest commands. I believe this was not available back then when I recorded it. So let's start here. Let's run that command. Yarn, copy it. Yes, yarn new select plugin. So when you do yarn new, there's a lot of things that you can create. You can create plugins, you can create packages, you can create additional add-ons for different parts of the system, front-end plugin, back-end plugin, lots of stuff, right? So this yarn new is basically calling Backstage CLI new command. Let's choose plugin, right? Same stuff as yarn new select plugin. What's the name of a plugin? The ID, the unique ID. So let's build a plugin which shows you a random joke, right? So let's call this random joke, right? So now that's our front-end plugin that's being built. So it's gonna create a new package, new npm package, and it's gonna install a bunch of stuff very quickly. It's done actually. So let's take a look. Plugins, random joke, it's there. My plugin is here. This is an npm package. You can see the plugin.ts actually exports a random joke page, which is a full page plugin. That's okay. I wanted like a catalog plugin, so we'll convert it into a catalog plugin. Excuse me. And then it's exporting this example component, which is here. Yes, example component. It's showing me some information. So let's take a look at what all things it did, right? I should have used git diff here, but what the things that it has changed in my app.tsx, my front-end package, is it has added that plugin as a dependency. So you see this. Now my front-end Backstage app will build with this new plugin. The command does it for you, so you don't need to do it on your own. Then it has updated the app.tsx. Can I search for my random joke page? Yes. Look at this. When this random joke is installed at a front-end endpoint, which renders like this. Let's run yarn install again. I need to restart the front end because I added a front end plugin. And let's do yarn start. I'm hearing the music. If you're watching the recording, you're not hearing music because there'd be copyright violation. So I'm streaming this live on Twitch. All right. Come up. All right. So let's see. Slash random joke. Is it there? It is here. So this is our plugin, as you can see. But it's showing on a route. I want this plugin to show inside here, like here inside the service entity page. So in order to do that, I need to export a card from my plugin. So let's see, go to plugin.ts. This is a page. I want a card. So let's go to our plugin docs. Let's see if this talks about it. So when you see page, it's a full page. It's so funny that they don't talk about this right up front. Like, how do I create a catalog plugin instead of a full page plugin? That's just extremely weird. But this is what you need. Like, you need to export a card. It has to be card. So the difference is this: create routable extension, create component extension. It's very hard, to create Backstage stuff by just following docs. The tutorials are not optimized for a newcomer. All right, so come in here. This is my random joke card. Okay, this stuff needs to come from core plugin API, so I'm gonna add that, and I need to give it a card. So my random joke card. And here I'm going to say random joke card. And I need to add that into my components. So I will say new folder, random joke card. Create again random joke card.tsx. And then I create a index.tsx. this random joke.card will import React, and I'm gonna return export default. Well, let's say random joke card const equals to return div hello world. Okay, export this. I mean, I can just do export const, and inside index.tx you need to say export random joke card from random joke card. I'm just guessing this here. I'm gonna actually look inside this thing and just copy this. Okay, export this named thing from here. Makes sense. It's named export. Do you know about named imports and exports? If you use curly brackets, it means the variable is named. If you do something like export default, then it's an unnamed thing where the name does not matter. Okay, my index is exporting that. That's wonderful. It's not a TSX. Let's call it index.ts. Beautiful. Okay. So now I've got a random joke card that I'm exporting, and it's saying it cannot find declarations. That's bad. What is missing? Components / random joke card. The index.ts is exporting that, and it has a random joke card. That's weird. Thank you. iPad bahar sofa pe. All right. Good chai. Okay. It's not able to import. Why? Oh yeah, it should be this plugin. Sorry. It's interesting that it's lazy here. The other thing is component. I think the component. Okay, yeah, I think the component is here. Don't need a name for component extension. Okay, I'm gonna try this anyway and see if this is an issue. So now the plugin is exporting that, right? So at the end of it, you have a card that is exported by this package. So ensure that you also update the index.tsx. So you do random joke card that is exported here. Wonderful. And go back to your, remember, entity page.tsx. That is how your catalog is rendered. So go back here, look at this, let's say service component page, right? Inside service. You see the overview content. This is where you need to add that. So let's say we add it at the bottom. We'll say grid, item MD equals to 6 because 6 is half of 12, which means half page. And then I'll say random joke card. That's it. No need any props. And I'm going to import this from my package, internal plugin package. Import this from / internal backstage plugin random joke. This should work. Even though I have an error, I think it should work. Let's see. Let's refresh our backstage and see if that thing is being rendered. Oh, it's being rendered. Hello world. You see? Looks bad, but it's there. because that's what I wrote. I just told it to render hello world, right? Doesn't look great, but now I have a plugin. Now I can change this UI, move this around, but let's actually try to make it look good. So good thing to note is that Backstage has something called a storybook. Storybook is the collection of components that you can use out of the box and build plugins. So one of the things that it has is card. Well, not this card. There's one card which looks good. Information card. Let's use this, right? So how do I use this? Let's see. It's called info card, and it's gonna be in the Backstage core components package. Secret information. Not everyone knows all this stuff. So, okay, add Backstage / core components is where you get all this stuff from. Now the thing is, you don't need to use Backstage components. You can use your own components, right? Or just go to Material UI and use Material UI component directly. That's also fine. Just know that Backstage also has some components for you, right? So I have a card. Now let's render that card in here. That info card. Let's see how it's used. Info card. It's not here. I need to increase this. So info card and text. That's it. So info card, and I need to say hello world inside it. Let's think of a joke. Backstage is easy to set up. Okay. Let's reload. Well, you see the card is here. Wonderful. And it's gonna take the height that it needs, so that's fine. But let's actually fetch a joke, right? So random joke API. Oh, that joke. Well, it was at the bottom. This is the API. Okay, so let's make a fetch call and get that joke first. So this is where you're gonna write some React, and you're gonna get that. So let me first change the music a bit. Too much Punjabi music. Okay, I like Anuv Jain. Anuv Jain is good. And we'll go to radio. Great. Cool. So we're creating a plugin, and we need to write some React. We need to fetch data and do that work. Now, fetch is something you can run on front end, but Backstage has its fetch implementation. So if you do import fetch API ref from core plugin API, this is where, and then there's another thing you need to do is use API. Well, it's in the same package. So the Backstage the fetch API that comes from Backstage already ensures that it's making requests, authenticated requests, right? So if you're using this fetch API to call a backend inside Backstage, use this API. Don't use your own fetch. Otherwise you'll have to add a bunch of headers and stuff. So how do I get the fetch? I'll just say fetch API equals to use API, and then I'll say fetch API ref. So take a look at this core plugin API. It has a bunch of cool stuff. Lots of APIs that you can use from here. So core plugin API. Look at all this amazing stuff here. Feature flags API, analytics API, alert, config, identity, discovery, errors. This is the fetch one. If you want to invoke authentication, you can use all of that. It's awesome, right? So we are using the fetch API. All right, now I have fetch API. So all I need to do is do dot fetch, and this is the same syntax as the HTML, like the browser fetch thing, right? So I need to give it a URL. So I need to give it this URL. No, this URL. And I need to give it headers. So header will include, I need to do headers, yeah. Headers will be accept application JSON. Well, do I need this? I think I'll just say plain and I'll get the response. Okay, so const response equals to, now I think this is asynchronous API, and that's why this is going to be an async method. Okay, so let's see what the response looks like in our browser console before we actually implement it. So go here, don't paste code. I I know what I'm doing. Okay, allow pasting. So let's store this in a response. Const response equals to this. Fetch API is not defined. Okay, I mean the same as this fetch. Okay, response is a promise. I need to resolve this. Response dot then data console.log data. I think this is the syntax. Yes. Okay. A readable stream. I mean, so Backstage has hot reload, so you can just directly, we can just directly build it here. So let's try to do response.text here. I think this will work. So let's try to render that. Okay. Instead of Backstage is easy to set up, let's try to render that. Let's see what happens. Found promise, you mean to render collection, use an array instead. Oh, well. Text equals to, I mean, joke equals to await response dot text. So dot text is also a async function, so it gives you a promise. Yarn and React use. Okay, this is the actual library I was looking for, React use. And from React use, I will do this. So I'll use this syntax. That's beautiful syntax. So it's going to be something like this. Okay. Const state equals to use async function, just like I had. It's going to return the end result. So it's going to just do this thing that I have. Just do this work. And it depends on, what is this URL thingy? Okay, it's coming from outside. So here we know the URL. So it's like doesn't depend on anything. Don't need joke. It's just setting the state for me. And here I just need to return state. I mean, basically this thing. Let's copy this. Okay, fine. Looks good. Okay. Perfect. So if it has a value, then we'll get the value whenever that's there. Right, let's hit reload. See, beautiful. Like I was using this wrong library. Now let's wrap this in info card. So look even better. And it has that loading thing you saw for a brief period. So we have a plugin. You get the idea. I spent too much time here, but the plugin is a React component that you export as a card that you can use and then as a page. The only thing that's remaining is how do I export a tab plugin, like something like here. So go again to Backstage composability system and search for tab content. So this is what you need to provide, which is the tab content thing /content. So that needs to, like, where is an example for that? This is pretty, yeah, I mean, plugin docs are like insane. So you go to the GitHub Actions plugin, which is at Backstage /community plugins. One way to create plugins is to look at the existing plugin docs. So go to GitHub Actions, plugins, GitHub Actions, source, plugin.ts. And this is where you can see the content. So again, this is create a routable extension, right? That's the only change. If you export a card, you just say component extension. If you need a tab or a page, you need a create routable extension. That is the difference. So look at all these like samples, and then don't forget to export it from here as well. So that is how you can create a Backstage plugin. Let's mark this as done. The backend plugin is pretty complex. My recommendation is create your own backends in whatever language you want to. You don't have to use the Node.js backend framework in Backstage, so I'm not going to cover this. I have a video about this topic, so I'm not going to cover that. Let's cover Scaffolder, which is the software templates. Right, so Scaffolder is basically you have basically this page, create page. So Scaffolder is how you can expose your software templates to your developers. So if a developer wants to start building a new service, new application, they come in here, they answer a few details, and things get done for them. So let's say I want to create my awesome service, and then I want to choose where this gets created. So I'll say OrkoHunter, and this is my awesome service, and then I'll add some random 1, 2, 3, and I hit create. It's gonna give me an error because I have not set it up just yet. So this is where we need to understand how the Scaffolder works. So let's take a look at the template that we already have. So go to catalog, filter by template, and it's a local template. You can see in your application you have something called examples, and this is the template.yaml. So this has been talked about before, but a template has, the kind template. That's the most important thing with the API version. But the template needs to say kind template, and it needs to be a unique name, right? That's it. Everything else is secondary. Then there are two pieces to it. One is the UI, so you can see what are we asking. So we're asking for some name, we're asking for a location of the repository, and all of that. And lastly, what actually happens as the step. So here you can see, the fetch template is something. Now, fetch template can point to a like a cookie cutter related, not exactly cookie cutter. So fetch template has its own syntax. It's based on nunjucks from Mozilla. So you can actually read the docs on Scaffolder to how to create. Where is it? Scaffolder. So how do you write a template, right? What's the syntax, templating syntax? Do they have the page? I guess they don't. Yeah, that's pretty bad. You need like our recommendation is, like my recommendation is, use Cookiecutter because that's much more powerful. It requires you to set up Python locally, but use the Cookiecutter extension, and that you can find in Scaffolder Cookiecutter module. So this is the module. You can find the Cookiecutter stuff. So let's install it. Let's set this up. So go to your terminal and install that in your backend. So run this from the root directory and add these two things. Okay, so the plugin stuff is done. Let's go back to our packages backend. And add the Scaffolder stuff. Okay, so the Cookiecutter module is added, which means the fetch Cookiecutter is available for us. So now we're gonna go to this content and we're gonna change from fetch template. Now fetch template is also fine. There's no harm in it. Just that it's not as powerful as Cookiecutter. So you can still use this syntax, the nunjuk syntax, and it's fine. But you need to use Cookiecutter has wide community adoption, so I recommend you to use that. By the way, what is Cookiecutter? This thing that I'm talking about. It's a Python project. Check it out. It helps you design your templates, and there's a lot of projects like Django. How to create a Django? Just run Cookiecutter create Django, and this is how you can get a new Django project. So now this is added. You get this fetch Cookiecutter action. This is called a scaffolder action. Very similar to a GitHub action. It's actually inspired by that. So fetch Cookiecutter comes from there. Now, how do you know which actions are available for you to use? So go to your create page. Click here. You see installed actions. This is where you can see fetch Cookiecutter is there, fetch plain is there, and a bunch of other stuff, right? The published GitHub is not here, which means it's probably somewhere in a package that we'll have to install. So replace that thing with fetch template, and this is where you need to provide the URL. Here we have just a local reference, so that also works. Let's try to run this. So home, go to filter by template. Let's refresh this, reload it, inspect entity just to confirm that it has been converted. It still says fetch template. Okay, maybe I need to kill the backend something, because this is loaded directly from the backend. So maybe I need to kill that. All right, my backend is restarted. Let's reload. Now inspect entity. It should say fetch Cookiecutter. It still says that. Did I not save the file? I'd never changed it. Wonderful. Fetch Cookiecutter. Now if I hit reload, after reloading the page as well, fetch Cookiecutter. Yes. Okay, let's run this. I'm pretty sure this will work. Well, the published GitHub will not work, so all of this will fail. But the fetch Cookiecutter step should work. No. Invalid string. Continue runtime cannot be defined when Cookiecutter is not installed. So we need to install Cookiecutter. We need to run pip install Cookiecutter. That's it. We need to run this again. Cookiecutter failed. That's better. The syntax needs to be changed, of course. So the syntax for Cookiecutter is does not include this dollars. It's just this. And the dump part is, we'll have to, I think it's like JSONify or something. So the syntax is called Jinja2. Do we have the Jinja2 dump filter? Let's open Jinja2 syntax. You can use these sort of filters. Let's see, JSON dump. Okay. Where is the filters? Jinja2 filters. Yes. So you can do uppercase, lowercase, blah blah blah, list, count. There's a lot of functions you can run. Ultimately, what we need is stringify. Maybe that's one. String filters. No. No. What about JSON? Nify. What about no? Convert object to string Jinja2. Oh, to JSON. Wonderful. So we can use 2JSON here if this is an object, right? And the other place where this is changed is this and package.json. Okay, so now my so now this is also not called values thing. So how do you create a Cookiecutter template? Right, if you go to Cookiecutter templates, let's pick one. Okay, so the first thing you need is like cookiecutter.project slug. Okay, I understood. Like you definitely need cookiecutter.json first. So cookiecutter.json, just copy. I mean, you just need to create it. That like there's nothing magical that you need to add here. I'm gonna just add one thing, not all of that. So I'm gonna do this. Okay, just this. So project slug is something I'm gonna add, and project name is something we're gonna ask our users. So we'll say template.yaml, and let's call this value project name. Okay, this is the input that we need, and based on that we create this project slug. So if there are like spaces and all, it's gonna convert that into a reasonable string that Python understands. Now we're gonna say cookiecutter.project slug. So whatever we put inside this folder is what's gonna get created. Okay, so the structure is you need a cookiecutter.json, and then inside that you have these variables. Now what do the variables look like? It looks like this cookiecutter dot. Okay, it's not values dot, it needs to be cookiecutter dot. Okay, nice. So you've got those, and and then our template looks like this. Let's ensure that the syntax is right. So Cookiecutter values, yeah, looks good. Let's hit refresh on our template and go to catalog, hit refresh, hit reload, come back, inspect entity, raw YAML. It's fetch Cookiecutter with project name. Wonderful. Now let's launch. Let's say something here. We still haven't configured the publish step, so this is gonna fail at the end. But okay, what's the error now? Come on, Cookiecutter failed. No filter called toJSON. toJSON is not a filter. That Stack Overflow was wrong. Cookiecutter. Let's see what we have in Cookiecutter.json, right? We should get. I mean, the filter we can figure out later. But let me just remove this for now. All right. Template, go refresh, reload the page. Go to create, start again, enter some details. What's the error now? Object has no attribute name. Yeah, because it's project name. So name is called project name. Here also it's called project name. And here also we are calling it project name, right? So you see Cookiecutter.json has project name, and this is what we are sending from our Backstage as well. It's called project name. We're getting it from this stuff. So the templating syntax could be confusing. The YAML itself is templated using the project called Nunchucks from Mozilla, right? It also supports a lot of the syntaxes and filters, like all of this stuff. And inside the Cookiecutter project, we follow the Cookiecutter syntax, which is the Jinja syntax. Same for Django and Python Flask projects. Right, go to create, choose, run this, create. Yes, it worked now. Now the publish GitHub is missing, so that's gonna be something called Scaffolder GitHub publish. Like, just search for these things, and you'll find the right module that you need to install. And this is the module. It's not that easy, really. So Scaffolder module, this is what you need to install, but how do you, okay, where am I here? Scaffolder module, what does the readme say? Nothing. Like, okay, that's fine. Keep calm. Let's say yarn, add to the backend. The Scaffolder module is GitHub. Okay, and we're gonna install this just the way we had installed our Cookiecutter action. So go to your packages, backend index.ts, and where was the Cookiecutter stuff? Now you just do this. You do module GitHub. This should just install this one. Kill the backend and restart it. Okay. So now let's go back here, and now the publish is there. So let's try to run this. Okay. My project name, so let's call it good project. or let's say random jokes. It needs to be in my username. Can also be in org, and then we say project name. Okay. Cookiecutter work. Publish did not work. Failed to create the user repository. Not found. Create a repository for an authenticated user. Can I make the logs bigger? Are you serious? That's it? Like, I can't magnify this? Oh, so actually my token, okay, so this is where when you use the publish GitHub action, your integrations token will be used, right? So my integrations token does not have a repo create permission. So this is what's gonna used. Let me go ahead and update it so that I provide a GitHub repo create permission. So go to your settings, settings, developer settings, my personal access token, and very quickly I'm going to change the permissions and say, I think this will give a repository create permission. Okay, update token. Let's run this again. I don't have the patience to write a good project name now. Hello. Okay. 404. Because it failed at the register step, but I think it created the repository. It did. You see? Yeah, it created. And oh, okay. It did not. Did it actually templatize things well? It did. Okay. It also created this Cookiecutter JSON here. So I think we need to update our template and say that the template needs to go to /content. I think, okay, my understanding was that it runs on this thing, but looks like it needs to be on the root here. So I'm gonna move everything to root and delete this folder. I'm gonna delete this cookiecutter.json as well. Okay. So let me delete this repo that just got created so that I'm not over creating repos. Delete this repository. I want to delete this repository. I have read and understand these effects. They're gonna make me type that thing, which I'll never be able to do. So I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste this, and it's done. All right, let's create more. So let me first update that template, refresh that template. I have some lighting issue. Okay, so now go to create. Use this amazing project. Okay, create on GitHub. Amazing project. Repository location provided, repo not provided. What? I did provide you the repo. What the heck? Okay, it's done. And actually now you can see the repository. So this is the repository, and you can see the project being registered in catalog. That's the magic, where developers create projects and they get to see the things inside here. Now, the CI/CD is not configured, by the way. What you can do is you can go to your template and then just configure it. Just add, annotations. And you can see something like github.com/project slug. And you can say, this is where you need to do like Cookiecutter dot, you need to get the repo and org where this is being created, right? So those are like, if you go to your template.yaml, it would look something like repo URL. And there is a way to split this repo URL into few things. So what we need here is we need the org/project. So go to this thing called Backstage/Scaffolder templates, or maybe it's just called software templates. This repository, and this is where you can find all the Scaffolder template examples. And let's take a look at the catalog info YAML here. Yes, so you see the project slug thing here. Values.destination.owner, destination.repo. So this used to be Cookiecutter. Let's fetch the Cookiecutter example. There is one. Yeah, this one, right? Yeah, Cookiecutter.destination, owner, destination, repo. Now, are we providing those information? I believe it will be here, right? No. Here, template.yaml. Fetch Cookiecutter. This is how we're providing. Okay. We just call it destination, and we say go to template.yaml, say destination, and just this is an inbuilt filter that Backstage provides, so that you get those variables. And now inside your catalog info YAML, the generated one, the templatized one, you can say destination dot. Let's take a look. Owner is the either org, or it will be the username, and we'll just say destination dot repo. Okay, and let's take it up a notch. So you got this. Now you need to so this is gonna ensure that the CI/CD plugin works, which means the GitHub Actions work. So let's already add a .github folder here, and let's add a workflow.yaml. This is a GitHub action, and let's say getting started GitHub action. Let's copy one simple pipeline example. So I mean, like, I just need hello. Yeah, this is fine. So copy. No, I mean that thing was fine. This thing, right? So it's gonna get created. That's fine. But this, if you look at this, it also has, like, your GitHub Actions is also gonna have curly syntax and whatnot. So you want to skip this. You don't want to render, like, don't want to run Cookiecutter inside GitHub Action. So you go back to your actions, installed actions. Where is it? Oh, it's in the create. Go back to your installed actions page. Look at the Cookiecutter example. Fetch Cookiecutter, and look inside copy without render. So this is an array of string, and you can say template.yaml. You can say here, sorry, inside Cookiecutter, you can say copy without render, and you can provide everything inside .github. Don't run Cookiecutter on those, just copy without running your render there. Okay, so that's the flag you need to run. And this is going to create that new repository with my GitHub Actions, and it's going to register that annotation. And at the end of the day, my new repo, it's going to be amazing. Like, trust me. This is all, 3-4 hours of work is waiting for. So I've reloaded, hit create, choose this, enter, magic project. Okay. Let's call this OrkoHunter at magical. Okay. Hit run. Please work. Please work. It failed. Why did it fail? Unable to create file. Catalog info YAML. Oh, destination is no attribute. Destination has no attribute. So I have added it. So this is my, I added this to, no. Yeah, I added this to a wrong place actually. This needs to go here inside the values, not as an input to this. I mean, both things are fine. So this needs to go here as a value. That's why that was missing. Okay. Template, example, fetch, refresh. And now let's try to create magical. This is gonna be magical. Magical project. I mean, why it's not giving me the same? Like, if I use the same, then it's just throws an error. Okay, please work, please work, please work, please. Oh, publish failed. Instance requires property repo URL. Repo URL is publish GitHub. Publish GitHub. By the way, you can look at the failed logs inside the task list. Just install actions, publish GitHub. It needs a repo URL. And what are all these things? What is destination? This needs to be repo URL, and this I need to pass that to repo URL here. I don't know why I changed that. So wrong of me. Okay, go to template, go to this thing, refresh, reload, go to create, choose magical, OrkoHunter, magical project. Please work, please work. Please work, please work, please work. All right, you ready for this? You ready for this? Okay. My repository is created. Okay. This has a GitHub action. So the GitHub action should trigger. Well, it didn't trigger for some reason. Is it not GitHub? I think it needs to be inside workflow something, right? It needs to be GitHub actions. It needs to be like inside. Let me check. Webpagespeaks.org. GitHub slash workflow. Okay, so inside workflows folder, that's the missing piece. Okay, it's like I need to add workflows and then I have to move this here. Okay, fine. And let me first delete this project. I have amazing project. I'll create magical project now. Okay, I have updated the template for the infinite time now. Let me hit refresh, do this, refresh, hit reload, create, go here, magical, OrkoHunter is so magical. And what's that? But please work, fetch, publish. What? Refusing to upload a create workflow. Oh, I don't have the workflow permission. See, work, and I don't expect anything in return. If it works, great, but that's not my expectation. So very magical. Extremely magical. Please work this time. Name already exists on this account. I already have this repository. Start over. So very magical. So very magical. Why is it not? There's some bug here. Start afresh. So very magical. OrkoHunter, so very magical. Okay. Please work, please work. Okay, now are you ready for the magic? For the final time. I have my new repository. I can just clone this and start working. Okay. I'm seeing that the GitHub Actions is not triggered yet. I mean, it should trigger. Please. Okay, I don't have a default branch, that's why I didn't trigger. But okay, so I have my new repository, and now if I open the catalog, the entity is here, and now if I go to CI/CD, I can see my first run executed. So this is why the developer portal feels magical. And that concludes our video for today. And we learned, we missed a few things. I didn't go into the depth of how to create the form, what are the different fields, and how to create a custom action. I have videos on those. Didn't cover how to deploy Backstage and everything. But this was a good, like a setup that gives you a taste of what it feels like to set up Backstage. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what more would you like to hear from me. Happy to produce content on that, any guides, any tutorials, so that you are on your Backstage journey. Check out Harness Developer Portal. It's an internal developer portal product built on Backstage. So you'll get all the benefits without all the trouble that I faced today. And yeah, please hit the subscribe button. That will help me a lot. See you next time. What is wrong with the fonts on this one? What the heck happened here? Is there some issue with the font in Backstage? Like, oh, it's running help. Oh, it's because my Helvetica new font does not have like so I'll show you what I mean. So I'm gonna switch to the music, energetic music, please. Not this thing. Energetic music. But things working. the whole internet is quitting on me. I'll play some music that I have. Alright, so where did this come from? What the heck is this function? Did AI write this? Dude, stringify entity ref is a valid function in the Backstage library, add it from there. Are you kidding me? VS Code just created its own. This is a method. You import it from Backstage catalog model. This freaking AI trying to be smart and actually not being smart. This is not valid as we actually need to. Not div, just div. What happens? Oh my goodness.